And we're back with another episode of Franchise My Business, the podcast for franchisors, hosted by franchisors. I'm your host, Kevin Oldham, and this show is not about me. This show is about our guests. And what I think is cool about today's episode is I'm going to talk to one of my kindred spirits in franchising, somebody who is doing a business model very similar to our franchise, but they're further along than we are. They've got a more enhanced menu, and they're not just doing smoothies. They actually started and their brand position is around acai bowls. But acai bowls in New York, back before it was kind of cool to have this type of food product available to consumers on the East Coast. So I've got a Wall Street guy here who noticed a trend, what was happening with health food, acai bowls, smoothies, and things like that on the West Coast. Got a little burned out doing the Wall Street thing, decided wanted to try and come make $1 billion business in the wellness industry. So without further ado, Bill Loesch, welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. As we were talking ahead of time, I'm like, man, this is super cool that we get to, first of all, that we're both involved in like a similar type of business. But
Yeah, for sure.
I want to know, like, why did you choose acai bowls? Besides seeing them as trendy and things like that, are you into what people put into their bodies?
Absolutely. So I've always been big into health and wellness, fitness. Obviously, as you get a little older and busier with business and have a family, it's tougher to manage all of it. But I was a 5-6 day a week gym guy. I was doing a lot of my own meal prep, so I was very health conscious and just. Even when you fall off the wagon, you still have the overall knowledge, right, of what's good, what's not good. So I always had an interest in food and beverage and in the health side of things when it comes to food and beverage.
Mm-hmm.
But I really never thought I would ever be involved in food and beverage from a business standpoint.
Yeah. I understand that. I understand that. It's like, when opportunity comes along, sometimes you just got to seize it. So you, let's talk about your initial career. You started on Wall Street.
Yeah.
You got like your series, all the series 6 or whatever they are. It doesn't even really matter. Let's talk about that experience. Like you start out your career there. Now you wind up as a business owner. Like what happened that made you decide to make that leap from basically employee to employer? Because I think that a lot of people go their whole life and they never make that leap. And I think that is sad and it's a travesty because there's probably a lot of people that should take that leap into entrepreneurship and they're just afraid.
Yeah, number one, I think that a lot of it is your genetic makeup. From an early age, I always was hustling. My buddy and I were selling candies when we were in second grade to students for 5 cents, 10 cents. As I got older, we were 15, 16 years old. We started a company called Brooklyn Home and Store Improvement. And we were going around painting and power washing stores. Then as I went into college, obviously I was focused on school, but I really wanted to start making money. So in my senior year of college, I started selling life insurance, started working for a friend's father's company. And then that transitioned into Wall Street. So the similarities across the board were, as a life insurance broker and then as a Wall Street broker, if you don't wake up every day and go to work and pick up the phone, you don't make a dollar. So I didn't really ever look at Wall Street as a 9 to 5. There's something that is entrepreneurial about it. So that was always in my blood. I think where the transition from Wall Street to opening up Baya Bar happened was there were too many variables that were controlling my destiny when I was on Wall Street. You have to rely on, number one, the ability to raise capital. So you have to have people who believe in you and they have to give you money, right? They have to invest.
Yeah.
Secondly, they can give you all the money in the world, but if you pick a stock or a company that's a bad investment, and it might not be a bad investment because of anything you did, it could be a management issue. It could be the state of the economy. It could just be that market. So there was all these variables that were controlling my destiny. And I wound up going through a really rough patch when my book of business was blown to pieces, when oil went from $100 a barrel to $30 a barrel.
Ooh.
So it was really that moment of, okay, it's time to make a transition. I want to stay in this world of controlling my own destiny, but I don't
Mhm.
want to be on Wall Street anymore. So, like you said before, I had my Series 7, I had my Series 63. It was very difficult to walk away from everything I had done in 4.5 years. But I knew that long term it wasn't going to be a good fit. So it was good to get out while I could.
Yeah, I think it takes a tremendous amount of self awareness
Yeah.
to because like you got this whole sunk cost thing, right? It's like, oh, I studied to go get these licenses. I did all this work, and frankly, yeah, I never touched Wall Street. I never would have been a good fit there. But my buddies that played there, it became part of their identity. It was like, all right, I'm going to go kill this person. This
Yep.
identity of being this, suit wearing, high driving type of person because it's not good for me long term. And
Yeah.
to be able to, and frankly, it's probably a good time to get washed out with didn't feel good at the right time. It didn't feel good to get washed out, but you get washed out, it's easier to walk away. But still, that
Right.
whole, like, I think a lot of people just continue to do what's comfortable as well because it's comfy. So kudos on you for having the self
I
awareness to be able
appreciate
to
it. I
leave.
think, yeah, I think
Yeah.
this, like you just said, the self awareness thing is very, very important.
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. You got to know what makes you happy. There's a Japanese concept. I actually did a podcast episode about it, Acai, which is operating your zone of genius. It's like the things that the world will pay you for. Like it's a combination. There's a pretty cool graphic that explains it. But like when you can find that little thing there that's in complete alignment with the universe on what makes you happy, what people are willing to pay you for, what you're good at, what gives you energy and doesn't deplete it, that's like your happy place,
Hmm.
the place where
Hmm.
you're able to contribute the most in the world. So do you feel like you're there today now that you've got your own business and you've got franchisees who are depending on your support for their well-being and their wealth building and their families and their customers? It's a lot, isn't
I
it?
think, oh, it's a lot. We have 24 stores open. We have another 8 opening. We have another 15 to 20 in conversation. So we have 50 locations in our crosshairs. It's a lot, and there's heavy lies the crown, as they say. Um, am I at my happy place? I don't think I'm there yet. I think
Yeah.
it's constantly evolving. You know, being married, having a young daughter now, those visions of life are constantly adjusting and changing.
Hmm.
What I will say is the way that I handle all of the growth and all of the pressure is really just focusing on today.
Oh.
You know, you just referenced this, what you said it was a Japanese term.
Yep. Akagai.
So I don't know who said this, so I can't quote them properly, but it was basically someone lost in the woods, they can't see and they don't know where they're going and they're freaking out about it. And, God says to them, well, can you see your next step? Yeah, I can see my next step. Okay, so then just take that. Just do that. Just take the next step. Don't worry about what's around the corner or what's behind the mist. Just take that next step, take the next step forward. I think that has been huge for my mental health, physical well-being, continued growth of the company. Is if you take a
Mm.
step back and you look at everything that's going on, it's very overwhelming. But if you could just take a step forward every single day, you manage the day, you manage the week, and before you know it, you look back, and I look back now and I say, wow, it's been almost 7 years,
Hmm.
and we've sold over 5 million acai bowls, and we have 50 locations in our crosshairs. And how the heck did we get here? But it's just by putting one step in front of the other day by day.
Yeah. No, it's beautiful. And it's also, I think that these mental models that help entrepreneurs control the chaos are really freaking healthy for us. And everybody's got
Yeah,
different ones. Like I carry some around, and I think you'll find this. Like if you've got a young family, my kiddos are 9 and 11 now. A lot of these mental models that I use in work, and maybe I'll come up with something, I'll read it in a book or something. Like The Gap and the Gain. Have you ever read that book or know the concept?
I don't.
Because it's very similar to what you talked about, but a little bit different. So The Gap and the Gains, written by Dan Sullivan. Dan Sullivan, strategic coach. He also wrote this book, which is hot. 10x is easier than 2x. I definitely would plug this. But the gap and the gain is all the premise is when we like, particularly with the proliferation of social media, we can compare ourselves to others very, very easily. And you can make yourself not feel good about your progress. Like FOMO, maybe I'm not as far along as my colleagues and things like that. So think about that world that we live in, comparison to others, we're instant on all the time. The gap in the gains premise is you can measure your success or um, your advancement of your goals two different ways. Number one, you can look at it front looking out and be like, wow, I don't have that yet. I don't have 100 locations yet. I don't have 500 locations yet. My wife, fill in the blank, like whatever you don't have, you're living in the gap. Okay. Or you can do what you just said, which is look at the gain, look back and be like, holy smokes, 5 million. Did you say 5 million? How
Five
many
million
acai?
bowls.
5
Yeah,
million
over
acai.
5 million.
5 million, dude. Like that's a lot of acai bowls. And so when you look back at that and you're like, holy crap. Now what you're doing is you're living in the gain. You're being appreciative of everything that you've done. And you're like, man, we may not have been perfect. As a matter of fact, we're probably far from it, but we've done a lot of good work and it makes you feel good about today. And then you wake up and you put in the work today
Yes.
because today is what matters. So I love your
Yep.
worldview on that, man. Yeah. Focus on what's important today. Focus on what's important today. So you started your business in 2016, started franchising in 2018, but 2016 was the very end. So realistically, let's just
Yeah.
say beginning of 2017, you launched this biz. You guys are basically what, 5, 6 years old now. Did you launch this
This
business?
this this December will be 7 years.
7 years. Awesome. Did you launch this business intentionally with franchising in mind as a business model expansion?
That's a great question. Any business that I've um, been interested in the past, I've always used this $1 billion test that I like to give. I ask, what's the pathway to $1 billion? Whether it's $1 billion valuation or becoming a billionaire. So in any of my past ventures, I could see what the pathway was to $1 billion. Not that it's necessarily going to happen, not that it's easy, but what's the pathway?
Right.
So when I got into Baya Bar, when I started the company, I said to myself, well, what's the pathway to $1 billion? And there was really two answers. It was, raising a ton of capital and opening up all these corporate stores, which your pathway to $1 billion is actually, in some senses, faster because you'll be making more money with corporate-owned locations,
Right.
or a little bit less upfront capital intensive, go the franchising route. And the individual store won't be generating as much revenue, but you could probably scale it a lot faster.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided with my team that we were going to go the franchising route pretty early on. I would say about a year into it, and then within a little less than a year later, we were franchising. We had done all of the legal paperwork, we had our FDD, and we started franchising in 2018.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You have a huge concentration where you are in New York. How many company owned stores do you guys operate?
So currently, we were down to two company-owned stores. We were
Cool.
at our pinnacle. We were at six,
For you.
and we've sold them off to franchisees.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think when you're in the franchising business,
Yeah.
you need to focus on supporting the franchisees and growing the brand.
Yeah.
Getting bogged down with the day-to-day minutia is just not worth your time.
Yeah. We found out that as well. Like we took custodianship of one of our locations and actually made it our flagship location because it's like you. I've got a location a couple or like less than a mile from our office. And it was humbling to go in and run that location because we came at it from a different perspective as investors who bought the asset. And I
Right.
still remember that first week. I was on vacation in Florida, and my business partner had closed it. He's our attorney as well, and somebody didn't show up for work. And so he sent me a message that he was there, like literally the day after we closed, or 2 days after we closed on this location, making smoothies and operating the cash register. And it was what we had to do that week until we could like find new team members and things like that. But it was like, holy smokes, what are we doing? Like, why are we in this location making smoothies today? And we got rid of that as soon as possible once we could find a new owner. And it was actually our manager. We sold it to him. So you're absolutely right. I think it does give us a lot of credibility, though. Because people that franchise that maybe haven't actually made the acai bowl or waited on a customer or something like that, you get this whole other level of, I think, credibility for prospective franchisees when they see that you're operating your own location or location. So very, very cool. What?
Yeah, I think it's definitely crucial in the early days.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you got to get your pulse on it, right? You've got to understand what the heck the customers want, hear the subtle nuances, read body language, all those things. It is very, very healthy. I want to talk about your toasts. So, this is one of the things that I think is pretty cool, and I'm curious as to if it is a big seller. Like if people are coming in and they buy a smoothie and then get toast, and because smoothies sometimes they're considered a meal for some people, like a meal replacement. But there's some people that actually feel like in order to qualify as a meal, you got to put some physical in your mouth, not like a drink. And toast works out well. I've seen, I think Tropical Smoothie Cafe has something kind of similar. I went in there one time and they had a pretty good like banana, it was like pita bread, peanut butter type of thing. And I was like, hey, that's a really good idea. Do you find your toast products are complimentary and people come in and buy them with smoothies, or do they just come in and buy them alone?
It's a great question. And you said a key word there that I preach constantly,
What's that?
complimentary.
Yes. Yeah. Get that
So
average order value up, right?
so any product that we look to add is always going to be a complementary item, not a supplementary item.
Mm-hmm.
No one's going to come in and say, you know what, instead of a juice today, or instead of an acai bowl, I'm going to get a coffee, right? Like
Right.
it's two
Right.
totally different things.
Right.
So in the case of the toast, there's, in some cases it can supplement an acai bowl. Someone says, I
Yeah.
don't want to get a whole bowl. I want to get a toast instead. But it's usually being paired with a smoothie or a juice,
Yeah.
usually.
Yeah.
I would say that we're known as a bowl shop.
Okay.
And we have phenomenal acai, pitaya, and coconut bowls. I'll touch on this briefly, and then I'll circle back to the toast. When I started the brand in 2016, we launched at the very tail end of 16, but there was 7-8 months of R&D before that.
Right.
Building recipes, testing it out, sourcing the products, figuring out the pricing. I take a very common sense approach to everything that I do. And when I looked at the smoothie acai bowl juice market, I said, okay, how should I approach this? How am I going to compete? How am I going to make a better product? Well, 3 things we focused on. Number 1, quality. I said, let me offer a high quality product, higher quality ingredients than my immediate competitors. Secondly, let me offer a large quantity. So there's that old adage, quality over quantity.
Yeah.
I think when it comes to food and beverage, it's both. If you could
Yes.
offer high quality and large quantity for the same price as the competitor, how can they compete with you?
Right.
And last but not least, aesthetics. So you have the quality, you have more size. Now, if you make it look right, you make it look really pretty. And not only the product, but also the stores themselves.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I said, if we make this a really inviting environment, I think we're going to knock it out of the park. And again, this is back in the middle of 2016 when all of the R&D was happening. And I said, there's not an acai bowl shop on every corner, but I think in 4, 5, 6, 7 years there will be, right? Not on every corner, but a lot of places. So how do we cement ourselves now as that go-to brand? So we really built on those 3 pillars. So circling back to the toast, we already had this product that was considered a meal replacement because of the size, the bowls that we offer. So I said to myself, how do we bring in something that's, some people are going to order the bowls over the toasts, but it'll complement a juice or complement a smoothie. Mm-hmm. And between you and I love acai bowls, but I don't want it every single day.
Oh, absolutely. You got a variation, right?
Right. I could drink a juice every day. I could even
Yeah.
drink a smoothie every day. I don't want to eat a bowl every day. So
Right.
for that customer that's coming in 3, 4, 5 days a week, how do we get them to keep coming in? And there's, you know what? There's those certain days where they'll go with the toast. So to circle back to your original question, the toast do very well for us.
Yeah.
They're definitely not at the top of the leaderboard. Bowls are
No.
at the top. Smoothies are second. Juices are down here, and then bowls, toasts are somewhere below juices. But it's a great complementary item. And luckily, we're repurposing a lot of the ingredients we use in the store to offer
Yeah.
the toast, so we didn't have to bring on new SKUs, and they're very easy and simple to make.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that.
So that's the full picture with the product line.
No, and I think it's awesome. You're right. It's like quality is super important, particularly if you're in the health space. I think that's
Right,
like that's just quality and healthy. I think are synonymous with each other, or at least they should
right,
be.
right.
And then the large portions, I love that. Have been places where I feel like I've been overcharged for what I got, and then the aesthetics. Like most people do, like their food to look good, and more importantly, if it's healthy, I think to portray the fresh fruits and all that. So that's really cool. I love that. I love that. Is there a moment like or an experience in your franchising journey that you think has kind of helped shape like where you are today? Like, is there any pivotal things that you can look back on from basically when you started franchising in 2018 and you're like, hey, that was a huge unlock for us and that's why we're at where we are today? Or has it just been focusing on each day and moving the needle
Yeah,
every day?
again, I think a lot of people when they listen to entrepreneurs talk, they want to hear that aha moment, or they want to hear about that, you know, game breaker decision. When in actuality, I think a lot of the successful entrepreneurs, it's just putting in the work. It's just time. Again, self-awareness plays a big factor into it, and having a strong foundation, which is built off of self-awareness. But it was really putting one foot in front of the other. I think it's constantly staying in the know when it comes to what is the market doing,
Yeah.
from a competitor standpoint, from an economic standpoint. We went through COVID, and we were in the height of growing our business and franchising and like focusing on opening up new stores, and we got smacked with COVID. And I
In New
said, okay,
York, in New York too, which was
oh yeah, yeah,
one of the
layer
more
that
like,
layer that on.
yeah, it's not like you were in Kansas City where, frankly, we had some stores that were still operating. Nobody cared. Like you were in New York
Yeah,
where they were pretty
yeah,
militant about shutting things down, right?
correct,
Yeah.
correct. So, you know, I think it's just one day at a time. And just to touch on the COVID thing, I was able to take a step back and say, well, how is COVID really going to affect us? Number one, we're fast casual. We're not a restaurant that has a huge wait staff and a bar and people are coming in and sitting down, and that's
Hmm.
not possible anymore. The customer experience has completely been wiped out. We're fast casual. People are coming in often and grabbing products and leaving, or ordering on Grubhub, DoorDash, Uber Eats, right? Secondly, we're a healthier product. We have fresh juices and smoothies that are immune boosting, that
Yes.
are great in a time of health concerns, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
So the customer experience didn't change much. We were helping people check the box on putting their health at the forefront. And I'm proud to say that not only did we not close one store, meaning like shut down and close for business, we actually
Hmm.
didn't even close our doors one day. We stayed open. And not to get into the political side of things, but we really fought back, and we felt that, for our employees, they needed to make money.
Yeah.
They need to pay their bills and sustain life. So we weren't going to close our doors for them.
Hmm.
And our sales took a 25% hit across the board. So, but
That's
we
it.
kept paying
You
out.
only took
Yeah,
25%.
25%. Yeah.
You're lucky.
And, we tweaked what we had to do. We put more of an
Yeah.
emphasis into the to-go orders, and
Hmm.
we survived. So
It's
again, back to
awesome.
the original statement, there was no aha moment. There was no pivotal moment. One day at a time, one day at a time, always being self-aware of what's going on and just taking it day by day.
I love it. I love it. And I love this episode. I love all of our episodes. I'm not gonna lie, but I love this one because you've touched on things that I feel like align with my worldview as well. It's like, man, like as visionaries, typically we can get out over our skis and get super excited about what the possibility of our projects, our businesses are. But the reality is, if we just come in and we just do, like I actually have a shirt from Andy Frisella. Do you know who he is?
Yes, I do.
So back when it used to be the MF CEO project before it changed to whatever, and it says do the work on it. It's all broken up and everything. But I love that shirt because, and I've had it for like 6 or 7 years. It embraces the simplicity of what we should do on a daily basis as entrepreneurs. If you look at the possibility and what can be, and you look ahead, it's like super intoxicating. And to some people, it can be overwhelming. It can be paralyzing, right? But if you look at what's important today, like what do I need to move forward on today? Like if I'm at home with my kiddos and I'm like reflecting on my day afterwards, I'm like, all right, what's a win for me? How do I define a win? I got whatever done, fill in the blank, whatever it was. And if that's all I got done today was hell yes, it was a win. And it looks like you prescribe to the same thing. And I love that. I love that. If people want to learn more about you or your biz, like what are the best ways for them to connect with you?
So obviously Instagram is a great one. Our company Instagram is at Baya Bar, BAYABAR. Our website is bayabar.com. My Instagram is Billy Loesch, at Billy Loesch, and my website is billyloesch.com. So if you go through either of those two channels, whether I see it or someone on the team sees it, it'll definitely get to me. But really focusing on the franchising business, helping entrepreneurs open their own business and become more successful by giving them great support and great tools. And I think somewhere in the next 12 to 18 months, I'm going to start focusing a little bit more on the coaching side of things.
Yeah.
So, obviously still building Baya Bar and focusing on the franchising, but I have so many people that are constantly like, hey, listen, love Baya Bar, but it's just not in the cards for me to open up a Baya Bar. But I have this business that I'm doing. So one of the things I'd love to talk about right now, just to inform you about and all of your listeners, is I think one of the big problems we have right now is this instant gratification, right? It comes through these short form videos on social media, and so many of these quote unquote influencers, they're doing motivation. You watch these videos, you get immensely motivated. And there's a few of these people who I love. Eric Thomas is one of them. Vaynerchuk is another one. Eric Thomas helped me get through my Series 63 and Series 7. So I have a lot of respect for Eric Thomas. But I think where a lot of people are falling short is they're so caught up in the motivation, right? You watch this video, you get all pumped up. I'm gonna crush today, but you don't have any of the tools to actually crush. You're just motivated. So if that's all you need, fantastic. If you have all the tools, you just needed that motivation. That's great. I call that the A to B. But what about the C to Z?
Right.
What about right? Like
it's like it's a starter, it's a lighter. Hey, I just lit the fuse, but how do you? Yeah, no, I'm with you.
Right. Like you turn the grill on, but how do I make the food? Where do I buy it? How do I cut it? How do I marinate it? How do I prep it? How long do I cook it for? So there's so many things that go into being an entrepreneur, running a business, and I think there's a major lack of that information. Everything again from C to Z of what kind of entity do I start?
Right.
How do I come up with a name? Do I come up with a name that I just really like? Well, number one, you could really like a name. Are the socials available? Is the website available? Is it trademarkable? How do you even know if it's trademarkable? Where do you look? Just walking people through that whole process. How do you do market research? What are your unique abilities that separate you from everybody else? Like I went into the bowl business saying higher quality, larger quantity, and aesthetically beautiful. There's also a pathway for someone to say, we don't give a shit about quality or being bigger. But their pathway would be offer a really, really cheap option, right? Like offer like a $6 bowl. There's going to be people who go, I really don't care about the organic products or the 18-ounce bowl. I'm cool with the 12-ounce or the 14-ounce bowl for $7. So figure out your unique ability. So one of the things that I'm going to start putting out a lot more content around probably in 2024 is the C to Z, as I'd like to call it,
Yeah.
on how to take those steps and start a business and really build something the proper way after you're motivated. Like, I don't want to have to
Right.
motivate you, right? Like, if you're not motivated, you're not my
That's not
person.
my problem, right?
Yeah, go get motivated. You're ready to take the big leap. Okay, now let's get into the weeds.
You took the red pill. Now you got to figure out what the heck you signed up for. Come on over.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, exactly.
I love that. I love that. And I think you're right. I mean, there's so many. Wow. I will say it. There's a trend on Twitter right now, or X, or whatever we're calling it today, where people are building businesses and they're documenting on long threads. And I love that. Like, they're building their
Yeah,
business out loud, basically. And so with
yeah,
that process, you get to ride along and see some of that blocking and like the C to Z that you're right. Like, the industry focuses and society focuses on, like, kind of like the top of the funnel. Hey, let's get you excited. But when it comes down to actually like becoming an entrepreneur and doing the work and all those things, well, we're going to sift through. And at the bottom, there's going to
right,
be people doing business, and you want to
right,
help those
right,
people. Yeah, I
right.
love it. All right. So if you need a funnel to help you get, well, first of all, figure out if you really want to be an entrepreneur, and then want to do the work. It sounds like Bill's going to have something for us here soon. So thanks for sharing that. It's wrap time. So thanks so much for joining us today and taking time out of your day. I really I enjoyed today's episode. It was a blast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on. I look forward to future conversations, and especially with our synergy between our two businesses.
Isn't that crazy?
So
Isn't that
I'm
crazy?
sure we'll be chatting a lot more.
We're going to chat right after this, man. All right. So that's a wrap, everybody. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed today's conversation with Bill, please do me a favor and smash that subscribe button. Give us a review, some sort of feedback. So we're not doing this in an echo chamber. We do this show for you, because of you. And we hope that you have a phenomenal week, and be well.